Hello, this is Antoine with another episode of Out and Up, where we encourage young athletes to achieve their very best outside of the game. And like every show, we have a great and awesome guest. And y'all know how I do. I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. This is Demetria Davis. I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I am a 2003 World Champion gold medalist. I am also the record holder at University of South Carolina for the most female decorated athlete and your 2021 Mother of the Year from North Carolina.
That is awesome. We thank you, Ms. Davis, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us this evening.
Yes, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. Anytime I can get a chance to pour into young people or even to young women, young men, or just even adults and serve my community and serve the people, I'm here for it.
Well, we greatly appreciate you. You ready to get into the questions?
Of course, let's do this.
Okay, so we'll start off. Where were you born and raised originally?
Okay, so I was born and raised in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I'm a New Year's Eve baby. So I was born on New Year's Eve in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Okay, and what high school did you end up going to?
Of course, the great Terry Sanford Bulldogs in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Wow. So you already touched on it that you ran track. When did you actually start running track?
Wow. So I started running, I remember my dad telling me that I was like 8 years old and he was in the military and he took me to the track with him and he was running around and he was looked down like, this little girl is still beside me running. So it was like 8 years old or so that I started running.
All right. So were there any other sports that you played in your youth?
So I only ran track, but in high school, I was a cheerleader in high school, only my senior year though.
All right. So in track, where did you, I know you said kind of how you got it started. So was that pretty much the inspiration and what just really pushed you to just continue running track throughout your career?
I think the inspiration was because I enjoyed doing it. I seen Jackie Joyner Kersey, the FloJo. I enjoyed doing it. I started doing it and I became great at it. And so it just became a passion. And so I just continued to do it. Of course, I did well in high school and that led to the rest of the story.
All right. So at what point, was it in high school or just let us know, at what point did you say, hey, I can probably do this at a high level?
So I did, of course, Junior Olympics, and I think it was Junior Olympics. I think it was a year that I went to, was it California? I believe I went to California at Junior Olympics and I actually won the nationals. And I was like, okay, like I just won, like I can really do this. And I began to set records and stuff like this. And I was like, and I think it was at that point that I realized I might be okay. And then I ended up making a world junior team and we went to Madrid. We went to somewhere in Spain. And then I made it the next time, my senior year, we went to France and I was like, okay, I think I might be okay.
Okay. All right. So were there any other accomplishments, I say, at Terry Sanford, any other awards or meets that you won? What were some of your biggest accomplishments at Terry Sanford?
One of my biggest accomplishments at Terry Sanford was my senior year. I ran indoor track. And so I ran the 55-meter dash, I ran the 300, and I ran the 500. Well, I was the only person from my team that went to the state meet indoor. Well, I actually ended up getting second place all by myself. So I got 30 points. And so that was a pretty major accomplishment. But the only drawback was they would not give me the second place trophy because they said I wasn't a team.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, my mom went ham. My mom went ham. She was like, what do you mean? She's representing her school. So what do you mean? And so unfortunately, we still say I got second place. Terry Sanford got second place, but unfortunately they would not give me the trophy because I was one person.
I was about to say, at the end of the day, you know who won second place.
Yes, we do.
So now through high school, I'm sure at what point do you start getting, attention from schools in regards to moving on to college?
Right. So I began to get attention from schools because, running Junior Olympic track, there's a lot of college athletes, college coaches that come to those Junior Olympic track meets. So I began to get a little notice when one year, I think it was my junior year, I was the national leading female in my age group in the 400 meters, and I had ran like 52. And so I began to get some, college coaches kind of looking at me. And then it wasn't until I got my first letter, you get those offers and you're like, oh my God, this is kind of real. Like, and then all the letters start flowing in from all the different schools.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so what were some of the schools? We know that you went on to go on to USC, but
Right.
what were some of the other schools that you may have been looking at during that time?
Right. So I looked at, of course, and I had my top 5, but I had so many different schools. I was recruited by Princeton, Harvard. I was recruited by UCLA, the University of Texas, University of Southern California. Where else? University of Southern California, UCLA, Texas, LSU, Chapel Hill, Duke, Florida, FSU.
Wow.
Notre Dame,
Wow.
Michigan. At one time, I was kind of like, Michigan. I think it was just because I like, that blue color. But I did have my top 5 schools that I ended up narrowing it down to.
Okay. So you just the one of the first schools I think I heard you say, was it Princeton and Harvard? I heard you say?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Ms. Davis, then we know that you not only were handling business on the track, you obviously was handling business in the classroom also.
Yes, sir. I was definitely a student athlete. So I was in honors classes and AP classes. I did graduate number like 40 or 50 in my class. And so that was big for me, and so I definitely took that over with me into college as well. And so I was a student athlete. I wasn't playing about that. I wanted to make sure those grades were right because my dad would give me money if I got A's and B's. And so I would come home, that was back then when we had 7 classes. So I would come home with $70 because I got all A's.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. So we're going to touch real quick on just all the attention you received from the different schools. What was it that kept you humble during that period? A lot of kids can't handle all that attention. And now we have the new NIL where these kids can get endorsements at a young age. And I think for some of them, we're just going to pray that they'll be able to handle that kind of attention. But I'll say to you, at that time you were being sought after by all these schools. What was it that kept you humble?
I think what kept me humble is because of the environment that I grew up in. My dad was a command sergeant major. He was in the military for like 36 years. So he was like a disciplined man. My mother was a cafeteria manager. She had gone to school, and we were very big at our faith. And I had a lot of support from my family. And so I think what really kept me grounded and humble is just because our family has always been servants. We always give to people and we love to give. And it just really taught me, that I work for what I get. And so I just have never been and was never that person that would flaunt and just be like, oh, I got this or I got that. And I will honestly say till this day, it's still hard for me. A lot of people, when they meet me, they don't even know that I'm a world champion. And when they find out, they're like, you're what? You didn't tell nobody that? And so it just kept me humble. I was amazed that I was getting the attention, like, oh my God, all these different schools. But I was just always very disciplined, focused, and grounded on what I had to do. And I was always a very disciplined person. And so it was just in my nature. It was just who I was taught to be.
And that's great. That's great that, I believe, and I hear you in saying that, your parents obviously laid that groundwork for you to have that mindset through even all the attention, that you remain humble and you didn't make it all about you. And so I think that's awesome. And I just hope that as some of the young athletes see this, they'll adopt the same mindset. I think all too often, our young athletes, they start to get that attention at a young age, and then they develop that me syndrome and they think it's all about them. And I always say, this is where my faith kicks in, because I always say these are platforms that I believe God blesses us with so that we can touch other people. And so many times people think, okay, as I begin to receive things, then you just want more and more for yourself. However, not knowing that there's doors being opened up so that you can not only be a voice, but you can also impact other people's lives.
Listen.
And so I think it's a great example that you touched on that. Go ahead.
Because you said something that was a key point that triggered my mind to think about something. And so I often tell people, because I do pageants and stuff like that too. And so I talk about parallel fitness, which is mental, physical, and spiritual fitness. And I was in a pageant this summer and I was telling people that our lives and my life is a platform, is God's platform. So that whatever happens in my life, that he uses my life as a platform. And when my life is used as a platform, it draws people. And that means that when what I'm doing, what he's doing through me, it draws people so that other people can be healed mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever it is. And so that is the key thing, that our lives, people watch your life. You can talk all day, but people watch your life, and that your life should really be a platform for God to display his greatness.
That's right. That's right. That's good. I appreciate that. And again, that is just something that I push to just really, I hope touches each young athlete as they see the different shows. We've had several shows. We have awesome guests that have been awesome examples, not only in the sport, but outside of the sport, but just in you being able to touch on something I touch on a lot, and having that foundation when it comes to your faith. Because in the world that we're in, you need God. But then when you get into, higher levels of playing sports and things like that, there's so many different other attacks. And so I believe it's important that people know you have to have a foundation, because in the midst of all life storms, that is what will keep you standing and keep you in the midst of it all. So I appreciate you. I don't want to go too far off. We're going to start having service, Miss Davis.
Oh, we go, because
I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Maybe that's another show.
That's right. We'll say that for another one. Let's get to the grades again. What was it, what were some tools that you used in just being able to balance your athletics and I mean, going to all these different track meets, as well as, being able to maintain the grades that you had? What were some tips? What are some tips you can give to the young athlete in doing that?
Okay. Now we're talking about high school, right?
High school. We're still at Terry Sanford.
Right. So what I think, I've always been, I'm a compliance type person. So I do stuff like this. And so what my regimen was, if I had track practice, and a lot of people would ask me, because I was really good in track and field, and my high school track team was not the best. And they were like, so you probably didn't even go to your high school track practice. Yes, I did, because I needed to set an example. I don't care how good I was or I thought I was. I still had to set an example that I'm not too good to be out here just because my track team isn't the best. So I would go to track practice after school. I would come home and I would get as much homework as I could get done before I had to then go to a second track practice at 6 or 6:30. And then once I come home from that, is shower, eat, and finish my homework. And so it was a regimen that I knew when I got home, do as much homework as you can. And when you get home, you got to finish your homework.
Wow. And so I just want you to elaborate a little more. You're touching on some great points. So we have so many young athletes that may go to schools where their football program, basketball program, baseball program may not be the best, but they're pretty good in there and they're highly scouted. Just give them some little tools on being a leader and being an example. Even if the schools are knocking down your door and your program may not be that good, just again, remaining humble and making sure that you use this as an opportunity to be a leader to your other teammates.
Yes. One of the biggest things is that it's bigger than you. It's not always about you. Again, because your life's a platform, somebody is always watching you. Just imagine if I would have decided, well, I'm too good to go to track practice. When I tell you that our track when I was at Terry Sanford was a track, it was a dirt track, and it was beach sand.
Wow.
I'm not exaggerating. It was beach sand, literally all the way around the track. And so one of the things that I learned from my parents is that someone's always watching you. Someone's always watching you. And one thing about a leader, if you cannot follow, then there's no way you're going to be a good leader
Wow, that's good.
at some point in your life. So I had to understand that I still, even though the coaches or the track team may not have been the best, I still had to follow. I still had to follow. I was still on the track team with the other, track team members. And it's just important that they see me as in, oh my God, I look up to her, or she's this great athlete and she's still here with us. Like, she's still here with us and we're her team, because I was their team. So I was there to encourage them. And that's who I was with. And so that just meant that I had to have enough discipline to go there. And then I had to go to another practice. And I practiced all out. I wasn't lagging either.
That's good. That's good. So what came into play when making that final decision to go on to be a Gamecock?
Right. What came into play is, honestly, it was the Holy Spirit within inside of me. It was something on the inside of me. My top 5 schools were University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I had to have a Carolina school in there.
Okay.
Texas, LSU, Florida. I can't even remember, but I know South Carolina was. I didn't even take all 5 visits.
Wow.
I went to Florida, to University of Florida, the Gators. It was a great experience. Then I went to the University of South Carolina, and I came back and I said, Mom, Dad, this is where I'm going. And then one of the things is, and one of the awesome things is, and I didn't even know it, my mom and Coach Fry, my coach Fry used to live in Fayetteville, North Carolina, way back in the day when my mom worked in the cafeterias, back in the day when my grandmother worked in the cafeteria. So he was a football coach. So he knew me when I was in my mom's stomach.
Wow.
And they came to my home. He came to my home. He visited. Then I went on a visit there, and it just felt like home. It really did. It just,
that's good.
It felt right.
Okay.
It felt right.
That's good. So real quick, just give the young student athletes some things they should look at or look for when choosing a university to go on to continue their careers or even their education.
Yeah. So I would say what you look at is, number one, whatever major, of course, it is that you would like to pursue, make sure that that's the major, and make sure that school, has some options for the major that you want to do. That's a tip. Also, when you go, you want the surroundings and you want the atmosphere to be an atmosphere that that you feel safe. That you feel safe, that you feel like family. That's what it was for me. I felt family. I felt safe. I felt camaraderie. I made friends on my visit. So that's one of the things. A lot of times people use the thing of, well, I want to make sure that I stay close to home. I wasn't opposed to going further away from home, but it was great that the University of South Carolina was only 2.5 hours away. So that was awesome. But I think one of the major things is just making sure that you have a connection with the coaches, making sure that there's a connection with the coaches and that, they have your best interest at hand, and making sure that whatever it is that you do and that you want to pursue, that those things line up to what it is that you want to do, even academically as well. Because yes, it's about the sports, but what about the academics? Because when the sports are over, guess what? You need to get a job. You need to live life. And so make sure that school has something that you can pursue academically as well.
All right. That's good. That's good. So what was the transition like? Now, going from Terry Sanford, now you're at USC. Was it a difficult transition? I mean, and I'm talking about classroom as well as on the track. Was there a big transition for you?
I don't think that it was a huge transition because I've always been a disciplined person, but I would say that even, talking to, the kids that are listening, you just have to be aware of that. High school and college are very different. There's not going to be anybody waking you up in the morning. There's not going to be anybody saying, staying on you about getting your work done. You get a syllabus. Okay. And so you got to make sure that you pay attention to that syllabus when things are due. You must stay focused. Now, I'm not going to lie. I went to parties. I did go to parties, but I still stayed focused, and I understood what it was I had to do. I knew what my first priority was. I was there to take care of business. Even on the track, I was always used to working hard, very, very hard. And so that wasn't a big change for me. But I would say to those high school athletes out there, if this is something that you want to do, start now. Start working hard now, that no one has to tell you sometimes to get up and do something a little extra. You got to start hard and start working now, because when you get to college, they're going to expect a lot more from you, a lot more. And they're going to expect you to be an example. And they are going to expect you, when they say do it, that's what they mean.
That's good. That's good. And I've heard you use one word multiple times already on this interview, and that's the word work. Many kids don't know. I just spoke to a few young people at a camp under the police department's PAL camp, and I talked to them about winning. Kids want to win. They want to be successful, and so I used the word win as an acronym, and I told them, for you to win in life, work is necessary.
Oh, yeah.
You have to put in work. And so you've touched on it so many times. I mean, just to hear the success that you were able to have in the sport. But one thing you've continued to repeat is the work that you put in. So I just thank you for repeating that. We'll touch on the education and in school and at USC real quick. What did you go on to major in?
I majored in exercise science.
Exercise science. All right. So as you're running in school, what are some of your thoughts? Or, I know you're running at a high level, but what were some of your thoughts as far as career once school was over?
I knew that, in my career, it went very well at University of South Carolina. And I knew that I would probably end up running professionally. So my biggest thing was that I wanted to finish my degree. That was the first thing. I knew that I wanted to finish my degree. And after I finished my degree, I knew that at some point I wanted to get my master's. But my biggest thing was finishing my bachelor's degree. And then, seeing what was out there for me with agents, whatever, and then pursuing a professional career in track and field, but also knowing that because I had a degree, that if I didn't, do professional, that I could do something else with my life besides running.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we're going to finish up on USC, but Miss Davis, let all those that don't know, and I know you touched on a little bit, just some of the many things you accomplished on the track while at USC.
Let's see. While I was at USC, it was multi-time SEC champion. And if anybody know SEC champion, SEC, conference is no joke.
That's right.
Most of the time at nationals, that was the whole final. But multi-time SEC champion, 7-time NCAA champion. I did win an indoor individual national championship, and I am happy to be a part of the first ever national championship at the University of South Carolina. The we brought the first ever national championship to the school in 2001. The girls track and field. They tried to say it was baseball, but it wasn't, because baseball won the year after us, but we were the first ones to do it. I was also the NCAA Scholar Athlete of the Year as well. Dean's List, President's List, multiple times. And I think one of my biggest accomplishments while at the University of South Carolina, if anybody has ever heard of Terrence Trammell, he's Terrence Trammell, he's like my big brother. And him and I both, if you go into the Coliseum, we're up on the ceiling on the USC Walk of Fame, because me and him both have the most, as a female, but he has male, the most NCAA All-American awards in the history of the school.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I know in reading, I saw said something like a total, I don't know if you just said it and I missed it, but 21 All-American honors.
Yes, sir. 21.
That is awesome. As you all see, Miss Davis not only did it in the classroom. She did it in the sport. And so as we wrap up the sports end of things, what did you go on to do once you left USC? Tell us a little bit about your professional career and some of your accomplishments.
Yeah. So after I left USC, I ended up getting a contract with Nike. And so I was endorsed by Nike. And so I ran professionally for Nike, traveling the world. That was my job, go to practice, and then, travel the world, go to meets and run track for endorsed by Nike. And then I made world championship teams. When I was in college, I think one of the biggest a good accomplishment that I did when I was in college was in 2001. I did make the world championship team as a collegiate athlete. And I also made the world university team. And so that summer I traveled to Beijing, China to compete at the World University Games, where I did win the 400 meters there and the 4x4. And immediately leaving from Beijing, China, I flew to Canada, to Edmonton, to be a part of the USA World Championship team in 2001. And so, and one of the biggest things that I always tell people, even during that time, school had already started. And this is one of the things that I always, if you don't mind me giving a little bit of advice and telling these athletes,
go ahead,
when you're in college, is I was in college and school had already started for us, and so one of the things that I will tell students is when you first start classes, please make sure that you introduce yourself to your professors. Introduce yourself. And I would go up and say, hello, my name is Demetria. At the time I wasn't married, Demetria Washington. I'm a part of the track team here at the University of South Carolina. And I just wanted to let you know that there will be some days that I may not be in class, but I will let you know when I won't be. I will either email you or I will personally let you know so that you can send me my work, or so that you will know why I'm not in class. And I will make sure that I get my work to you on time. And if I need an extension, I will let you know. And so that is even what I did that summer, because classes were going to be starting and I was going to be in Beijing and I was going to be in not London, but I was going to be in Canada. So I emailed my professors and said, hey, this is what's going on. And they gave me an extension and they gave me extra time to get my work in and to get my grades in because of communication. Communication is key.
That's good. That's good. Now, I think that definitely was a good note for young athletes. And I guess I'll ask you, is that typically something that's supposed to be done, or is that something you kind of took into your own hands? Or does normally a Division I program, does the coaches normally take care of those kind of things? Let us know how that goes for the young athlete that may not know.
Right. So I'll say this. I don't know what they do now, because there's a lot of things that change. And I can say that a lot of the coaches probably babysit these kids a little bit too much now. But back in my day, we didn't get babysat as much. It was a different mentality. And we're just trying to teach these kids that you got to think on your own. But I will say that I do remember our coaches mentioning to us, hey, a great idea might be to introduce yourself to these professors when you first start class. So I took it to heart. And the first day of class, I was introducing myself to these professors and making sure that they know who I was, and not because I wanted them to give me something or I wanted them to give me grades, but because I wanted them to understand I ain't gonna be here sometimes. And so that's definitely, now I don't know what they do now. I assume maybe they do say something, but I'm not sure what they do now.
That's good. That's good information. So I know that after running, professionally, you've been able to utilize your platform to just impact lives in so many ways. But just tell us a little bit of some things you've done once that period came where you were no longer running, on a professional level. Just what are some things or some ways that you utilize your platform to really give back or really impact others?
Right. So I've always been a woman of faith. And I had no idea that I would end up marrying a pastor.
Okay.
So that is one way that I have actually definitely used it. My husband and I are pastors and we do pastoral ministry. And so that right there in itself gives me the opportunity to minister to people. And God uses my life as a platform. Also just talking, speaking at different events in high schools and conferences, retreats. We do a lot in the community with, those that are in need. My husband coaches football. And so always having kids over and able to pour into them as well. And just being a part of the community. My husband's a city councilman. My husband was in the military. He's a Purple Heart recipient. So
Wow, that's awesome.
Being in that arena and so many different things. And now one of the things that I do as well is sometimes I get a chance to play flag football a little bit. And so
Okay.
I do that. And also my passion is cooking. And so
All right.
that's
So tell us a little bit about your business and on the chef end. Tell us a little bit about it.
right. So I have a business called Dee's Champion Cuisine where I am a private chef and I'm a caterer. And it's always been a passion of mine. I really started cooking at like 7 or 8 years old, cooking stuff at home for my parents. And so even when I was in college, I would cook for the track team. Then the football players and the basketball players would hear about it and they'd be like, "Hey, you cooking?" And even I don't know if some of you know, which I'm pretty sure you do, one of the Olympians, Batman. You ever heard of Batman? He's a 400-meter hurler. He actually lives here in North Carolina. He was a part of our team and he started calling me Mama D because what I would do was I would take some of the younger kids once I graduated and I was no longer on the team. I was still training professionally. I would take them to the store and I'd be like, "Hey, you can get $25 worth of groceries. What do you need?" And it was like a mama. And
Wow.
so I would always cook. And so they would call me Mama D. And so about a year and a half ago, someone told me like, "You really, really, really should do this." And so I was like, you know what? I love track and field. I did the personal training thing for a little bit. And then I was like, I love cooking. That's my passion. And it has completely taken off. Like I have some emails and stuff right now that I need to get to because people are, are requesting, and everybody loves food.
That's true. Very true. Very true. And so you touched on it real quick for a quick minute earlier, but you mentioned another name, Parallel Fitness.
Yes.
Let talk a little bit about Parallel Fitness.
So I started Parallel Fitness in 2011, and it was me personal training, mental, physical, and spiritual fitness. So I would train people, personal training, but in that personal training, I would also minister to them spiritually, and it was also mentally, because in order for anything, you got to have the right mind. You got to get your mind right. And so I just believe that mentally, physically, and spiritually, like all of those things got to be parallel. Like all of those things work together. They work together in your life. And so that's what Parallel Fitness is.
That's awesome. And so you mentioned it early in the show about an award that you received from America Mothers Inc.
Right.
So on top of all the other different hats Miss Davis wears, she is first and foremost a wife and a mother.
Right.
And so let us know about that awesome award that you were blessed to receive this year.
Right. And I heard you. I like how you said first and foremost, a wife.
Yes.
Then a mother.
That's right.
But yes, I am the 2021 Mother of the Year. I'm here in North Carolina. And so just being a mom, there's so many different hats you wear. Homework, sports, cooking, sick. So many different things, but not just am I a mother to the kids that I birthed, but even kids in the community, even kids at the church. And so I just love serving people. And I've just always had that motherly, I don't know, I'm going to check up on you and see how you're doing.
That's good. That's good. So Miss Davis is an awesome guest for us. Just a perfect example. Just that example that we want to continue bringing our guests of just the student athlete that not only did well in the game, but also in the classroom, and then even in life thereafter. Just just reminding our young athletes, there will be life after the sport. I asked early last season, like when the sport drops you off, will you land on your feet? And so Ms. Davis has been a perfect example of just utilizing her platform to touch others, to give back. And I just pray that our athletes will see this show and just see the awesome example that she is being, and just know that these are opportunities for you to impact other people, even impacting this world on some level or another. And so, Ms. Davis, we're about to wrap it up. But one of the questions I love to ask always towards the end is, how important is it to have positive people in your circle?
It's so important to have positive people in your circle. I am a firm believer. I accept accountability. Okay. I want positive people in my life. I want people in my life that are going to hold me accountable, because if you're not going to hold me accountable and you're just going to let me do anything, I really kind of don't, might question that. But if I'm in your life, you can best believe iron is going to sharpen iron, and that I'm going to hold you accountable. And I expect the same in return, that you hold me, accountable, because I think that those things are so very, very important in our lives, to have positive people in your life, people that are going in the direction that you're going, people that will speak into your life, people that will tell you the different things that, that you should do, or the different things that you could do better. But positive people in your life are very important, because when you get those negative people in your life, it begins to be draining. It begins to suck the life out of you. But when you have the positivity in your life, there's nothing that you probably can't do, because sometimes there's people in your life that believe in you a little bit more than you sometimes believe in yourself. And when you see someone else and they tell you, well, I believe in you in this area, you start thinking like, wow. And it makes you feel better, because sometimes we have our days. But definitely having positive people in your life is definitely important, and picking the right people to hang around, picking your inner circle, because if you're the biggest fish in your group, in your little pond, I don't want to be the biggest fish. Right. Okay. I don't want to be the biggest fish. I want to be able to look to others to where I'm going. I want to glean from somebody. I want to be poured into as well. But if you're the biggest fish and can't nobody tell you anything, then we might have to revisit a few things.
That's good. That's good. And this is a question that I didn't have written down, or wasn't normally part of my question, but I want to ask you this, just a quick second for you to take to just tell a young athlete, what does it take to really, be able to play, no matter what sport it is, play on a high level? And then I want the second part, I want you to just touch on preparing for life after the sport is done and gone.
What it takes to play and compete on a high level is discipline, work. Winning is necessary. Work is necessary. So it takes discipline. It takes hard work. It takes sacrifice as well. It takes sacrifice. You can't be selfish, especially when you're on a team. It's also about, a team camaraderie ship. And it's just about understanding what your purpose is, because it's not always about you. Sometimes most of the time, all the time, it is a bigger picture. And God just didn't put you in one place for it to be about you. He wants you to actually touch somebody else. And your second question was in preparing for life. Is that what you said?
Life after the sport is over with. Yes.
Life after the sport is over is remembering whatever it is that you decide to do in high school, what you decide to do in college is going to affect what you do after. And so all of the decisions that you make must be things that lead up to what you want to do after high school. Okay, now we're in college. Now we're after college, and understand that every decision you make has a consequence, and the fruit is going to show, and it's going to manifest at some point and somehow. So making the right decisions, having the positive people around in your life, and just going with your heart and having that foundation and knowing what the purpose is and what your purpose is that God has put on the inside of you. Being authentic.
Good. That's good. That's good. We greatly appreciate you for all the questions you've answered and the information. You've given us some great information. And then finally, we always ask this question: who is it that inspires you in life?
Wow. Honestly, I don't know if it's not cliche, but who inspires me in life is God.
That's
He,
good.
he inspires me that I just want to lead a life that I can be my authentic person, my authentic self. And he inspires me that I know that my kids are watching me, people out here are watching me. And that at the end of the day, it's whatever he says. And it inspires me to make sure that I can please him with everything that I do and that I can just be a servant and that he can use my life as a platform and I can serve wherever I need to serve. That's
That's
who
good.
inspires.
That's good. Well, Ms. Davis, we greatly appreciate you. Those that have watched this episode, we pray that you have gotten some of this great information. And like always, I always say, make sure you share. There's some young student athletes, whether it's middle school, high school, that will definitely need this information. They may not have one in their immediate circle that's giving them this great information. So I just hope you that are watching, you'll take the time to share this show. So that young student athlete will be able to gain some wisdom and really be able to apply the information that Ms. Davis has given us. So you all know, I say it every show, it is good to be great in that sport, but it's even better to be great in life. So I thank you once again for joining us. Thank you, Ms. Davis, for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. This is an amazing thing that you're doing, and please continue to do this. This is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you all for watching. Now let's go out and up.